Castlevania is a game whose design I hold in very high regard. There's lots of elaborate analysis I could do of the game as a whole, but for now I'll simply describe the game as one that understands the language of 2D platformers. It uses this language to teach a player the rules of the game. This means there's no need for an instruction manual, or even text in the game beyond press start until you either run out of lives or finish the game. A classic rule of writing is William Shakespeare's brevity is the soul of wit. This is a game that understands how to make more out of less. And yet, there's a pretty simple counterclaim that someone could make to this. If this game is so smart, then how do we explain the Haunted Armour in Stage 2? If computer games follow similar rules to writing, then this is a completely superfluous placement. It's not blocking your progress, and it can't even hurt you unless you jump into it. Pitchy, are you sure this game's level design didn't just fluke out a lot of its good moments? Well, that's actually what I want to talk about today. Not only do I believe this armor has a place in the game, it's one that's integral to the themes of horror and suspense. To understand this armor, let's talk about positive reinforcement. It's a psychological tool where you get someone or something to perform the behavior you want by giving them a tangible reward every time you do. For example, if you gave a pet dog food every time they obeyed a command, or if you were to say, give a large star pickup every time a player used the cutter ability to cut this particular rope. Castlevania uses this technique from the very start of the game. Assuming a player has never encountered Castlevania before, they'll inevitably start up the game, watch the intro cutscene, then press the controller's buttons to see what they do. Upon pressing the B button for the first time, they'll most likely strike a flame and discover doing so drops an item. The game even subtly introduces items hidden inside walls by making a bat spawn close to the first such location. It then does this again in the boss room by having a level 2 power-up hidden inside one of the floor tiles. Without saying a word, the game is communicating a rule to you that's something like this. Don't just whip prominent objects. If you explore, you will get rewards. Stage 2 goes one step further in this reinforcement by revealing that rewards don't even have to actually be inside the wall. If you explore, apparently you can find bounty anywhere. So basically, by the time you've found the crown, you've likely already discovered hidden wall meat, hidden floor power-ups, and smashed a large pile of candles for items. You might have even found an invulnerability potion by random drop. So let's walk on up those stairs and see what else awaits us in this game. It's not so bad. And we see that this screen poses even less challenge than the previous. The only enemies are a bat, conveniently in range to whip from jump height or standing depending on your position, and a haunted armor who the previous screen has established will only walk back and forth. He's even on a tiny little spot like that. Pragmatism would suggest that there's no need to go near that armor, but our knowledge of the game and its rules so far suggests otherwise. Castlevania really seems to want us to explore and whip everything we can, so let's do so. But wait a minute, we've killed the armor, and we're whipping the wall, but nothing's happening. Is this haunted armor really actually not guarding anything? There's really no reason to go after this thing? This would be pretty easy to describe as sloppy level design. I, on the other hand, prefer to describe this as a violation of trust. Because from this point on, nothing is the same. Before the screen, you could expect that if you worked hard and moved out of your way, the game would reward you for potential losses in resources and time. After this point, you can never be entirely sure this is true. This subtle betrayal also happens immediately before the dreaded Medusa head enemy is introduced. The game's difficulty increases dramatically from this moment onwards. Dracula's castle has now given you a conundrum through these tough times. Do you risk further damage exploring every nook and cranny, only to maybe get something in return? Or do you just press on as best as you can while playing as cautiously as possible? Can you trust, say, these stairs here to actually be stairs? Or are they just an interesting choice of background artifact that will make you jump in ways that you're not actually supposed to? I said earlier that Castlevania is about horror and suspense. The myriad death traps and infuriating enemy placements certainly encourage caution, but it's this violation of trust that I feel really adds to the first time experience. When a game always rewards, even the most dangerous trials will feel that much more achievable if you keep at it. But when a game instead keeps a player wondering whether it's worth putting in extra effort, well, maybe you could just choose to end after the next game over. Maybe this time Dracula gets to win.